The briefing room at Fort Liberty hums in the early light, walls lined with 82nd Airborne history and silent stares. A dry voice tosses a jab about what the hell is a SEAL, and a few chuckles ride the air. The HVAC whispers while eyes shift toward the newcomer standing at 7:15 a.m. with boots aligned to the tile. Lute. Avery Cole. U.S. Navy Joint Training Liaison. Wears NWU Type 3 and a calm that makes room feel smaller. Her gaze moves like Overwatch, slow and exact. Counting exits. Noting posture. Reading the air the way marksmen do best. Knuckles show faint fast rope burns. A pale ring marks where a band sat. A tattoo hides behind her ear. People whisper about attachments to a JSOC task unit. Precision fire support. Compartmented files that never make the hallway chatter. Out on the range, a steel hit echoes in memory, pointing to a cold bore test. None of them expect. Avery lifts her chin and meets the skeptics. The room holds its breath. The frame freezes and title card arrives. Morning drifts over Fort Liberty with a thin veil of fog. Settling on red clay and the long parade field, inside the headquarters corridor, framed photos of the 82nd Airborne trace a line from Normandy to today. Fluorescent lights hum. The air smells like floor wax and dust. Loot. Avery Cole. U.S. Navy stands outside the office door at 7 o'clock a.m. NWU Type 3 pressed and boots aligned to the tile. She waits for Lieutenants. Cole, Danielle Mercer, a seasoned administrator who has never seen combat. The hall is quiet enough to hear footfalls turn a corner. Master Sergeant Victor Hale approaches with a personnel folder tucked under one arm. He notes the calm in her shoulders and the way her gaze moves, slow and exact, as if marking arcs and angles. He hands over the folder, then takes position nearby with the easy stillness of an old infantry hand. Avery's build is compact and steady, the kind that comes from functional strength. Her eyes work in a scan-pause rhythm, checking corners, exits, and human posture. Then settling near Neutral, a compact IFAC rides her belt for range blocks later. TCCC items squared away. Hands hang relaxed. Ready. Not tense. She is the Joint Training Liaison, assigned to the 82nd Airborne, bridging Navy and Army habits without fuss. Everyone keeps the forms of respect that oil a unit, with crisp sir and ma'am as needed. Rumors hint at an earlier attachment to a JSOC task unit as precision fire support. The official file carries compartments that few can open. A flash of memory rises and fades. A father who wore marine dress blues once taught her to track sign and see what is there, not what she wishes to see. Another memory follows of Ludele, Jacob Reed, and a high junctional hemorrhage that outpaced time. Hemostatic gauze. Direct pressure. Adjunctional tourniquet. Medevic called QRF inbound. None of it fast enough. She breathes in and lets the breath go, pulling quiet back into her chest. Fingers touch the folder, then fall still. The door latch clicks from the other side. She steadies her stance and steps forward, carrying a debt that has no voice. The office feels cold in the morning light at Fort Liberty. Fluorescent bulbs wash the maps and plaques in a flat glare. The HVAC hums steady, and paper edges curl on a clipboard near the desk. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Mercer sits behind a neat stack, flipping a file with thick redactions. He studies the blacked-out blocks and keeps his voice, even while his eyes say this is support work, not combat. The chair creaks when he leans back. He glances at the clock that reads 8:30 a.m. in quiet digits. Lou T. Avery Cole stands at ease, centered, calm, capped. Blake Turner rests in the doorway with a relaxed stance and a Ranger tab bright on his sleeve. He wears the look of a man who has been to Afghanistan 3 times and thinks he can read a room in one glance. His smile carries doubt that never quite leaves. Avery answers with steady ma'am and sir and nothing extra. She lays out her past role in clean lines. Precision fire support and reconnaissance while attached to a JSOC task unit. Work logged in compartments that do not travel. She does not posture. And she does not reach for labels she has not claimed. The silence stretches just long enough to tighten the air. Mercer closes the folder and lets the hum of the HVAC fill the space. He sets a decision with the weight of a stamp. There will be a demonstration for the officer corps at first light tomorrow. Maj. Ethan Ward, formerly of USAMU, will run the standard and serve as the evaluator. Turner shifts his stance and lets a small wager slip into the room like a shrug. He doubts she will hit past 400 meters with any consistency. Avery offers only a nod and a steady breath. The meeting ends with a sense of lines drawn and daylight ahead. Late afternoon settled over Helmand with dust hanging in the air and heat bleeding off the walls. Our assault element moved on a walled compound while I took overwatch from a rooftop about 200 meters out. Mirage drifted over the sight picture and the wind jabbed in short bursts. I set my natural point of aim and let the reticle float, then settle. The mission had looked simple on paper. The door kicked and the numbers were wrong by a mile. Fire snapped from more windows than briefed. I worked the rifle like a metronome and kept the lanes clear where I could. My optic matched the platform we had for that run. On 7:62, I dialed clean elevation and held wind in the reticle. On 5:56, I used known holds and adjusted off splash and mirage. Either way, the rhythm stayed the same. Breathe. Press. Follow through. Radio traffic stayed tight with brevity that left no room for confusion. Contact calls. Shifts. Status. And cuts. The ROE held steady in my head while I counted angles and civilians and heat sources. The goal was simple. Keep the team alive and stay inside the left and right limits. Then everything bent hard. Lutau. Jacob Reed took fragmentation near the pelvis, and the bleeding was fast and high. The medic called it before I saw it. High junctional hemorrhage. We worked the steps the way they are taught, because steps are what you have when the ground moves. Hemostatic gauze packed deep. Firm, direct pressure. A junctional tourniquet seated and checked. Medevic spun up, and the QRF rolled. But the clock was a wall we could not climb. The bird was still minutes out when his pulse told the truth. I kept firing where I had to, and kept quiet where I could. The compound gave way in pieces, and the team pulled back into control. When the last shots fell off, the smells stayed. Metal. Dust. Old fabric. The kind of silence that is loud for days. I never wrote much about that night. The log shows rounds, grid lines. And times, it does not hold the way a glove sticks to a palm after blood dries. It does not hold the way a name feels in the mouth when you try to say it to yourself and the sound does not arrive. That work lived in compartments for a reason. I had been attached to a JSOC task unit, and my role was overwatch and precision fire support. Nothing more, nothing less. The file carries what it needs, and no more than that. Back at Fort Liberty, the morning is cooler and ordinary. I line my shoulders with the hallway and breathe until the count smooths out. There is a door to open and a day to run. The thought settles in without drama. Teach. Not tell. The weekly staff meeting at Fort Liberty runs on habit and checklists. Officers ring the table with training calendars and range blocks. Lieutenant Daniel Mercer reviews the schedule and announces a marksmanship demonstration set for first light the next day. He assigns Maj Ethan Ward, formerly with USAMU, to build the standard and serve as the evaluator. Ward lays out a clean protocol that everyone can follow. Confirm 0 at 100 meters with 3 rounds. Record group. Make minor corrections. Then execute cold bore shots at 200, 400, and 600 with M4A1 chambered in 5.56 by 45 NATO using an ACOG 4 power optic from prone unsupported. Call each shot and maintain range safety by the book. He adds environmental notes that matter more than pride. Expect wind between 5 and 7 knots and a temperature near 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Mirage will run light at first, then grow as the sun climbs. Watch grass and dust for wind calls, and do not chase gusts. Keep comms short and clear, and log impacts with target numbers. Captain Blake Turner keeps a thin smile and lets a casual wager drift toward the table. He doubts anyone will post consistent hits past 400. Lieutenant Avery Cole answers with sir and ma'am and nothing beyond that. She offers no story about past attachments or compartments and only confirms she will be present and ready. The room settles into a quiet pressure that feels fair. First Light finds the 82nd Airborne range quiet and cool. Maj Ethan Ward briefs the lane and confirms targets are marked and pits are clear. Lieutenant Avery Cole loads out with an M4A1 with a 14.5-inch barrel, ACOG 4 power optics, and M855 ammunition. The line comes alive with small sounds of metal and breath. Ward runs safety by the book. Chambers get checked. Muzzles stay downrange. Eyes and ears on. And range commands are plain. Shooters call safe and wait for his signal. Avery settles into prone unsupported with a calm that makes the dirt seem level. At 100 meters, she confirms 0 with 3 rounds, group prints tight and just off center. She dials a minor correction and records data on the card. Ward nods and moves the lane to the next phase. 200 meters starts with a cold bore shot. Avery uses the BDC in the ACOG for a clean hold, then adds a light wind hold based on grass and a soft mirage. She breathes through the natural pause and breaks the shot clean. Steel answers and Ward logs impact. At 400 meters, she talks to the wind with smaller motions. 5 to 7 knots move dust at ankle height and push a leaf line in uneven pulses. She adds about a mil of hold into the breeze and keeps the reticle steady through recoil. The target rocks and the clipboard scratches again. 600 meters is where 5.56 begins to flirt with the edge. Drop sits near 9 to 11 feet from a 100-meter zero, and 10-knot wind can drift 3 to 4 feet. Avery dials elevation in mils, then holds about 1 to 1.5 mils into the gusts. She waits for the lull that matters more than pride. The position is all bone support and patience. Elbows dig just enough. Toes ground the body, and the rifle rides the breath. The reticle settles, the trigger breaks, and follow-through keeps the sight picture honest. A half beat later, the E-type rings hard. Ward calls confirmed hit and notes upper thorax with a slight right bias. The air goes still as officers process the sound. Captain Blake Turner watches without the smile he brought to the meeting. Avery only nods once and lets the rifle cool in the morning light. They move to the back range where the 800-meter lane sits beyond the impact berm. Maj Ethan Ward carries a laser rangefinder and checks distance twice. Then marks wind from the west at 10 to 15 knots with a light thermal shimmer. Temperature is rising, and the air feels thin and dry. The crew sets a single E-type steel and clears the lane. Ward signs out an M110 SASS. The SR-25 pattern rifle chambered in 7.62x 51 NATO. With a loopholed mark, 4LR, T3, 5 to 10 power optic. Magazines rest in a neat line beside a small dope card. He runs safety again and keeps comms short. The range officer confirms cold line and eyes and ears. Lieutenant Avery Cole goes prone and builds a position from the ground up. Bone support first, then natural point of aim, then a careful check of rifle level. She tucks in behind the glass and lets the reticle float until it stops moving on its own. The stock fits close, and the bipod feet bite into the dirt. Mirage wobbles the target, and the grass shows a steady lean. She reads it for value and direction, then looks to the card and dials elevation near 10 mils, based on 0 and load. Wind calls settle at 1.5 to 2 mils left to start, with a plan to favor more in gusts. The hold is measured, not guessed. Ward takes the spotter roll beside her and watches the shimmer for the same pattern. He confirms the target number and gives the send it call. She rides her breath down and lets the shot break clean. Time of flight is a long second, where only pulse and dirt exist. Steel answers with a hard ring that carries across the berm. The target sags and steadies while Ward tracks impact in the glass. He calls center mass with about 3 inches low of centerline. The clipboard scratches and the range goes still. Captain Blake Turner does not smile this time, and his shoulders come down a fraction. The officers around him stop shifting in place and look out over the lane like it grew longer in a moment. Respect is quiet when it is real. Avery eases the rifle safe and lets the barrel cool. No one reaches for big words and no one tries to claim more than what happened. She has never called herself a SEAL operator, and does not start now. The record will say she was once attached to a JSOC task unit in an overwatch and precision fire role. The rest stays where it belongs, in compartments and in work done right. The range settles after the 800-meter hit per senf. Maj Ethan Ward steps aside and uses the cleared liaison channel to verify the record for Lieutenant Avery Cole. The call is brief and careful, and the wind keeps its low push across the berm. He returns with the same steady pace and gathers the group at 9:15 a.m. Ward delivers what can be shared without drama. Portions of the file are compartmented. Avery was attached to a JSOC task unit in an overwatch and precision fire support role. Awards on the public side include a Bronze Star with V and several additional citations appropriate to that service. With sensitive details withheld for security, the officers take it in without a word at first. Lieutenant Connor Miles moves to the front and offers a formal apology with a straight spine and an even voice. Avery answers with a short ma'am-level nod, accepts, and lets the moment pass. Captain Blake Turner follows and owns his doubt, then asks if he can learn from her on the line. Ward keeps the momentum on task. He states that standards speak louder than assumptions, and that the purpose here is to train well and safely. He extends an official invitation for Avery to serve as a guest instructor for the Brigade Advanced Marksmanship course. The air on the range feels cleaner, as the group resets targets and resumes work with a quieter kind of respect. Orders post after the 800-meter range day, and the tone in the building shifts. Lieutenant Daniel Mercer is reassigned laterally to a division-level logistics billet, a move that fits his administrative strengths. Captain Blake Turner receives a letter of reprimand, a light go more, and keeps his company. He signs up for additional marksmanship and instructor development without argument. The next week, the classroom at the Fort Liberty Advanced Marksmanship Training Center fills with 40 soldiers, infantry, scouts, and sniper candidates take seats. Notebooks open, rifles cleared and flagged. Lieutenant Avery Cole stands at the front as a guest instructor and keeps the outlines simple. She teaches prone, kneeling, and standing, natural point of aim, respiratory pause, trigger control, and follow through. Then moves to reading wind with mirage, grass, and dust, and range estimation. By method, not myth. On the line, the first block runs M4A1S, with ACOG 4 power optics from 3 to 500 meters. She shows how to dial small corrections or hold using the BDC, how to judge a light crosswind, and how to drive the trigger without moving the sight. Speed reloads happen under control, with muzzle awareness and safe fingers. Then immediate action drills run as tap, rack, assess with a clean reset. The group learns to call shots and record data without chasing gusts or ego. The second block brings out M110 SASS rifles and a different rhythm. Dope cards sit on bipods and spotters stand in the right place, calling wind values and nudging holds with quiet words that travel only a few feet. Targets sit at 6 to 800 meters, and the class watches reticles steady through breath and bone support. Lieutenant Connor Miles thanks Avery after a tight string and says the lesson landed that standards carry more weight than assumptions. And Cap Turner asks precise questions about mills, MOA, and how to stage a hold when the wind will not sit still. Avery answers in short, clear lines that stay focused on saving time and lives outside the wire. The day ends with the company on the catwalk staring downrange at steel that looks farther than it did in the morning. Respect rides the quiet. As the sun comes down, she knows why she is here, and it has little to do with telling stories about herself. Evening settles over the Fort Liberty range as the last lane goes cold and the wind threads through the pines. Brass glints in the dirt, and the berm holds the day's echoes without comment. Lieutenant Avery Cole stands alone at the firing line and looks past the sights towards steel that sits quiet now. She thinks of Lieutenant Jacob Reed and lets the name rest where it hurts and helps at the same time. Purpose, not redemption, lives in the simple act of doing the next right thing. We do not need belief before we act. Only the work done clean and safe, and within the standard, results speak with a voice that travels farther than talk. She breathes in, lets it go, and feels the ground steady under her boots. If this story sits with you, come with us. Stand for standards over assumptions, for training that saves time and lives, for respect that does not need a headline. Join the channel, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear a steady voice after a long day. Somewhere downrange, a faint steel hit carries on the air, then fades, and the quiet that follows feels like resolve,